Hello there. Okay, this is my Benzo update, and last couple days been kind of disastrous. And well, as you probably know, if you're following my story, I had a whole big long drama, months and months and months, with drug dealers and all that nonsense. So before then, I was doing pretty good. Even through June, um, I was spreading the quarter milligram of alprazolam slash Xanax. I was taking out between 30 and as much as 58 hours, and taking small doses of volume to ease that ease myself into those long stretches, which is 2.5 or 5 milligrams depending upon how I felt. And those were really expensive for me to get, so I'm very sparing with the volume, so it's not like I'm just staying high all the time, popping volume and then waiting to get to take the alprazolam or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's more like, oh, I feel pretty damn awful. I'll cut this volume in half and take 2.5 milligrams, and wait another 8 hours before I take the quarter milligram of Xanax. But since the since the squatters have been evicted on the 31st, I'm just not sleeping. I'm just stuck in that pattern of alertness where I'm worried about meth people breaking in, and I had the death threats going on and stuff. So I'm just not sleeping good. When I wake up, I'm awake. I did sleep good last night, but that's only because I backslid on the volume, and I think I took 3 times my taper yesterday. So, but I feel rested today. But today I got like a benzo belly, and I don't know what I've heard this term before. I mean, I feel like I'm sick. I feel sick whether I eat, whether I don't eat, whether I have a bowel movement, whether I don't have a bowel movement. My stomach just feels like it's like got a valve stem and a guy with a bicycle pump just blowing it up. It's just it just feels bad. It's like there's a tightness in there too, and I you know if you know how benzo dependence works, you got those nerve endings all through your body, and what I heard was that you have the most benzo receptors right here, and it's like my stomach is never happy, and the owner of the stomach very seldom happy either these days. So the person that actually got me started taking Xanax through really no fault of their own, they didn't know what it was either. Had a bad health scare that I got to find out about today that may involve major surgery. So I have to find out about that today, and I'm kind of concerned about that. They did the tests on them yesterday, like an exploratory deal to find out what they have to do. So they feel like guilty about that, but I'm like, you didn't know what you were giving me, and I didn't know what I was taking. It's my fault. You put something in your body, you don't know what it is. Who you gonna blame? Nobody tied me to a bed like Popeye Doyle and made me take Xanax. It's just the way it worked out, and it's just a unhappy confluence of events. But yeah, the benzo thing not going good. I don't know if I want to find some more volume just because it's so expensive. But that's when I feel the best, and that's when I do the best. Is when I'm really feeling the withdrawal symptoms, taking just 2.5 milligrams, or if it's really bad, 5 milligrams of volume, and then waiting as long as I can, so I start feeling bad again. Now, there's people on here that made many suggestions to me about dietary changes and water titration, which is just, grounding up the pills in water and then measuring out in milliliters. And, instead of like taking a dose and then you don't have that wearing off effect, supposedly, I think is how it works. But I felt like I was doing pretty good until you know, I had a lot of things dropped on me at once, a lot of health concerns. You know, I got the CRPS already, but I had a lot of extra things. I've had trouble with my mobility, and then the whole then I had to be like the driving force, getting on the police to do something about criminals living in this little 4-unit building, and the meth trade and all that. It's, you know, hopefully it might take me a couple of weeks. I got like a mini case of post-traumatic stress disorder going on here from being threatened, and you know, being physically vulnerable it's if you don't know what that's like, uh, that makes every threat 1,000 times worse because they're viable threats. I mean, Norm Macdonald has a bit. I wonder that's like, you know, to be an 80-year-old man and walk down the street knowing everybody can kick your ass, and that is me. And I used to be like the opposite of, I used to be the opposite of that. When I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I would just walk all hours and just not give a fuck. If you wanted to mess with me, that was on you. And, you know, I just had so much attitude that it prevented a lot of fights and a lot of confrontations. But now that's different. So now if somebody's threatening me, anybody can make good on that threat. And so that the stress of that hanging over my head, and then, you know, sleeping 40 feet from people making the threats and having like new people coming in and out, you know. I wrote my thank you letter to the police officer that threatened the people that were threatening me for me, which I manipulated him into doing it, but he still didn't have to do it. You know, where I kept them. You know, they threatened me. They threatened me in many ways, but the main way they threatened me was like, as long as we're here, we're gonna make your life a living hell. And they said this to me while the cops was outside, so I just kept her chirping, opened the door, and let the cops hear it. And then like the main cop, uh, the senior officer, the sergeant, came in and heard that, and it ticked him off, and he threatened them. And then after that, you know, I felt a little bit better about things, but I just got stuck in that pattern. You know, even though I felt better about, uh, you know, my chances of escaping an ass beating or getting killed, I still had it in the back of my mind. I still realized that I can't defend myself without you know, a serious weapon, and I also realized that there's a bunch of junkies around here, and junkies, there's no reason to how they do or how they'll behave. You know, the dude that threatened me through the window, he made that funny threat. You know, it's just funny. He's like, if I was you, I'd change my motherfucking last name. It's like, I'm right here. You know where I live. I'm not on the lam. You don't have to track me down and look for Mr. Blah 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 of blah 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 street. I'm right here. I'm not going nowhere. So, um, yeah. I mean, I don't know if this benzo thing, stomach or benzo belly, people call it, is a manifestation of anxiety, or it has to do with the medication itself, supposed medication. You can call it poison, medication, drug, whatever you want to call it. But I don't really know, you know, why I feel like this, but it's just a horrible way to feel, to have that benzo stomach. And sometimes I have an appetite and I have hunger, but I also have the benzo belly at the same time. And like, if I'm gonna eat, my stomach's gonna punish me, and it's like half the time you don't want to eat. And there was a guy, I'll give him a plug. There was a neighbor Bob guy that was talking about periodic fasting. He seemed like a good dude. So you know, you might want to look up his videos, because he seems like a more nurturing soul than me. I'm not a comforting individual. I realize this. Yeah, I got all my papers here, and I'll spare you looking at me, looking at them, but I was looking at them and studying the pattern of how things went. But it's basically, you know, I got to worry about these last couple of days and how I'm going to do today, because it's about 13 hours since my last dose, and my last dose was a full 0.5 milligram, which my taper is supposed to be 1/4 milligram a day. So I did finally sleep, though, even though I might not look like somebody that slept. I did finally sleep, but I just wasn't sleeping for a whole week after the eviction. I had so many nights where, waking up, looking at the alarm clock, and it's 1:30 and 2:30. It's like I flashed back in time before the drug dealing scumbags started living here, when I was doing good, or before I started doing good, and my brain's not as clear as it was. It's all very frustrating, but if you're watching this, you already know the kind of frustration I feel right now. It's in about, let's see, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So we're coming up on 6 months since I started trying this. And granted, I had a lot of stuff dumped on me during them 6 months, and it has been a lot of difficulties laid upon me from every quarter of my life. Everybody, from the doctors to my family to everybody, and it's just not stuff that I don't want to bore you and run through all that nonsense. But this is not stuff where it's like me perceiving slights or wrongs where I'm like, oh, how dare that person do that or say that. This is actually people like my doctor messing with me, which I recounted on here, and the whole living situation that I have, and my family member actually saying, so nobody's living up there now, when I was complaining about new people living up there and having squatters and having new people who are dripping water through the ceiling, and he's not even listening to me, that kind of stuff. So if you do get support through this, I'm jealous, because that must be nice. I mean, the best supportive person I had through this, and I don't, never know how much to say on here, but they've been pretty good. They said one thing, like I had to take some of the responsibility for updosing through the whole squatters threatening my life, police skells walking through here day and night, nightmare. But I'm like, I'll give them that one. I mean, I didn't know how else to cope. If I could walk better, I would just leave, during the day and sneak out. But then it got to the point where I'm like, there's always somebody here who's a criminal, and if I leave and they know I live alone and they have a grudge against me, and they know I have a few expensive items in here, and the place is unguarded, I got to be like Smaug, guiding a much smaller pile of gold. Smaug the dragon from the Hobbit series. Yeah, explaining the reference probably killed the whole cleverness of that, but yeah, I'm subject to do that. Uh, Never explain. If you ever explain anything, don't explain it. I watched a darn good movie last night while I was hoping for sleep, praying for sleep. That was called Kin, and I would good movie, man, but it just had this long explanation at the end, and it's like, spare me that explanation. Don't need it. I don't want to hear it. You put together a kick-ass, not overdone, tense, kind of a cool movie, and then you're going to have a bunch of chatter at the end of it. I'm not going to spoiler the movie, but just, yeah. Good movie. I recommend it. I guess they were setting it up for sequels or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I'm subject to run at the mouth. But I'll save some of my voice for my audiobook project I'm working on. I got a microphone for it. It's over here last night, but I think it's pretty shitty. And I bought another one that's coming that's more like a $50, in the $50 range, instead of this Logitech one I'm looking at over here. So to try to, I made that Iceberg Hermit audiobook, and somebody said that, what'd you record this? They didn't say the usual dumb lines people say on YouTube, like, what'd you record this with? An Idaho potato? Or, something like that. People think they're funny. They just said, did you use they say, aluminum foil microphone? And I told them, like, well, I'm sorry, but no refunds. You paid your money to listen to my free videos, so you don't get no refunds. And that would be explaining the joke again. But anyways, So yeah, I'm gonna try to improve my audio quality on that. That was more or less practice, because doing narration for novels and books, man, that is really hard. It's hard for me anyway. I don't have no natural talent for it, so I'm gonna have to work at it. And yeah, I am gonna work at it and do what I want to do, which is read other people's works and my own work, and try to figure out how to make a decent sounding audio books, because I love books, always have. But yeah, Benzo thing's not going good today. I don't know what my plan today will be to um, probably 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, take a quarter, and then try to go to sleep tonight, just using doxepin as a sleep aid. That's my plan for today, if I can get away with it. I got up nice and early, so maybe I can go to sleep nice and early. I got to get back to a normal sleeping pattern. I think that's very important when you're going through this withdrawal stuff. And I did go back on my word, and I did mix this up with a bunch of patter, instead of just saying like, this video could have been like 45 seconds of me saying, yep, I fucked up. I took too much yesterday and the day before, and I was doing a quarter a day for the previous 5 days. I started that on the 26th of August for like 5. I'm not going to bother you and look at the papers. Just being yeah. Anyways, one thing about these videos that I do is there's another person on here that they were like, people tell them, you don't seem like you're doing that bad, because they come on, they said they look good, they sound good, they're much more articulate than me, and just smooth, they're just smooth, so people are always like, well, you don't seem like you're doing that bad. And they said, well, I only come on here when I'm at my best. Well, I'm the opposite. I come on here when I'm at my worst. I may put up a nice game face some of the time, but yeah, I'm not on here when I'm at my best. I'm on here at my worst, which I don't know if that's fair to you or not, but it's probably good if you want to commiserate with somebody, not to to know that, there goes my brain, to know that other people are going through like bad things, or having trouble thinking and having the benzo belly and stuff, and that's not all in your head, because it's not. Those receptors go all through your body, and people, the list of symptoms for benzo withdrawal is endless. This video is too long, but I'm not going to redo it. Because I'm on here to be honest. I've been called dishonest recently in the last couple of days, but I'm on here to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, you have to see me when I'm like this too. You have to see me when I'm not particularly coherent, when I got bags under my eyes from not sleeping, and when my stomach feels like a Macy's Thanksgiving Day balloon. I'm gonna go try to eat something. And thank God, I figure this isn't a beauty contest anyway. I would like to be more coherent and to speak better, but yeah, I'm just having them. You see me on my bad days, so I'm on here basically to try to help myself get through those bad days, and try to express the anguish and suffering involved in this benzo nonsense. And I always feel like I don't have a right to complain, because my habit never really exceeded 1 milligram a day. I just have like CRPS, which is already has neuropathy with it, and a lot of neurological symptoms, and I already have a compromised central nervous system. So happening on the strongest benzo in the world and taking it by accident, it's just a bad stroke of luck, you know. So in my opinion, I mean, there will be no research, and there will be no nothing for any scientists to look at on this. But in my opinion, having CRPS and taking benzos, it just amps up the whole thing a whole bunch, because I should not, in my opinion, I should not be suffering to this degree from what should be just small amounts. You know, for God's sakes, I took less than a milligram yesterday. I took 0.75 milligrams yesterday, and I was taking 25 milligrams a day, and I still feel like garbage. No matter what this looks like, or matter how this sounds, or how bad it sounds to me especially, got to put ego aside. I'm at the 20-minute mark. I got to put my own personal needs aside, as far as like wanting to kill time and distract myself by making words so I don't have to address how I feel. Put all that aside and stick to what I said before, is I'm going to try to shorten my videos and not make them much longer than 20 minutes. I got a different setting. It's nice and quiet in here, because when I did it in the living room, there was all those ambulances and police cars going by and motorcycles and people talking really loud in the hallway and all that nonsense. So I was like, I got this old filthy recliner in my bedroom, so I'll just hole up in my bedroom, and I can still have a nice little sound cave and keep my word about you know, at least acting like a little respectful of my audience, and putting a shirt on and sitting up and acting like I'm paying attention. So anyways, we're at the 21-minute mark, and that's all I can allow myself. It's all the time of yours that I can allow myself to take up. So that's my benzo update for this day of our Lord. 9/11, right? 9/11/18. Day of our Lord, 9/11/18. That's all I can say, I guess. Is I always wish everyone is doing better than me, because I wish the world to be a happier place for me to live in. It's all selfishness, purely selfishness, that I wish you the best, and that I wish you the most happiness and well-being that life can possibly afford you, because that means if you're happier, it's going to be a happier world for me to live in, and I'm just a selfish bastard that way. So until next time, bye-bye.